Welcome to your 20-minute Mat Pilates class. When you're ready, we'll stand at the back of our mat, reaching those arms up overhead. Exhale, we'll lean over to the side, stretching out that side body. Inhale, we'll come back to center. Exhale, leaning over to the other side. Inhale, coming back to center. Arms come all the way down. We'll tuck our chin to our chest, slowly rolling all the way down. Soft bend in the knees, hanging out here. We'll walk those hands out to find a downward dog position. So pushing our head between our shoulders, hips up nice and high. And you can pedal through those legs. So bending one knee and then the other. From here, we'll find a 4-point position. So hands directly under our shoulders, knees under our hips, and we'll do a couple of cat-cows. So exhale as we round through the spine, eye gaze looks towards our knees. Inhale, eye gaze comes forward, we do a gentle arch of the back. Exhale as we round through the spine, pushing away. Inhale as our eye gaze comes forward, shoulder blades come together. Working at whatever pace feels good for you here. If it feels nice to hold one position longer than the other, you can. Just enjoy this gentle warm-up. Finishing off your last rep here, and then we'll come take a lie down onto our back. So feet flat onto the floor. We're going to come into a couple of pelvic tilts. So leaving the pelvis nice and heavy, we're just going to tilt the hip bones back towards our belly button, and then push the hip bones towards our knees, gently arching through the back. It's an inhale as we arch through our back, pushing the hips towards our knees, and exhale as we flatten our back down towards the mat. So it's a very gentle movement here. Your pelvis is staying heavy on that mat. We're just starting to warm up through the hips, through the pelvis, getting that articulation of the spine. Next time you tilt your hip bones back towards your belly button, we're slowly going to lift up into a bridge. So lifting those hips all the way up off the floor. Big squeeze of those glutes at the top, trying to keep the hip bones nice and even as we lift. And then when we lower down, we're lowering down upper back first, mid back, lower back, and then resetting to that starting position. When we lift our hips up into our bridge, our finish position should be with our knees pretty well directly over our ankles. So as we lift the hips and squeeze through the glutes, we're also thinking about pushing the knees forward. So if your feet feel like they're too far away, just bring them back to you so it should be a nice straight line down from the knees to the ankles. Every rep, we're thinking about starting with that pelvic tilt. So tucking the hip bones towards our belly button, then slowly lifting off the mat, lower back, mid back, upper back. And then as we come down, it'll be upper back, mid back, lower back. Nice and slow and controlled with these. Next time you lift your hips up, we're holding them up. We're going to stay up here for 10 seconds. So squeezing through the glutes, hip bones stay nice and square, driving the knees forward, holding up for another 3, 2, 1. Slowly lowering back down to reset. We're going to come into a staggered stance bridge now. So right foot will stay where it is. Left foot will reach out slightly forward, still making contact with the ground. Now we're going to lift those hips up just like we were before, keeping them nice and even at the top. However, this time the right foot is doing more of the work to bring you up. So we're burning through that right glute just a little bit more, but just make sure that you are lifting evenly through each hip with every rep. In 10 seconds, we're going to lift into a static hold once again. So meet me there in 5, in 3, 2, 1. We lift the hips up, we hold them up at the top. Big squeeze of those glutes. Thinking about that right glute, we're here for 3, 2, and 1. Slowly lowering down. We'll do our staggered stance bridge on the other side now. So our left foot comes back to that starting position. Our right foot reaches out away. And then we're lifting up through the hips, checking in both hip bones are even at the top, with our left leg now doing more of the work. It's an exhale as we lift the hip up, inhale as we slowly control it down. No need to rush these, focusing on our form. In 10 seconds, we'll find that staggered stance hold. So we'll hold at the top. Meet me there in 3, 2, 1. We lift the hips, we hold, we squeeze. Nearly there. We're here for 3, 2, and 1. Slowly lowering back down. Hugging those knees into your chest, have a little roll out here. We're going to find a tabletop position now. So our hands are by our side, nice and relaxed. Our knees are positioned directly above our hips and our shins are parallel to the sky. So we should be able to balance, say, a plate of food on them. From here, we'll come into some toe taps. So we're going to tap the left toe down towards the floor. It's a hinge at the hip joint, so our knee and ankle stay in the exact same position. And we're thinking about keeping our lower back pressing down onto the mat the whole time. So trying not to let the hips rock forward and back. If it works for you, you can hold your hands onto your hips for a little bit of tactile feedback. And if you are feeling your lower back arch, just try not to get your toes all the way down to the floor. You can just go as far as you can before you start to feel that happen. In 5 seconds, we're going to meet back into that tabletop position. So knees directly above our hips, shins in line with the ceiling. Once you're there, arms come up to the sky. We're going to come into what we call a dead bug, but we'll build it up first. So extending the left leg out nice and long, bring it back to tabletop, followed by the right leg out nice and long, bring it back to tabletop. You can stay with that, or if you are comfortable with it, you can add in the arms. So we extend the right leg out and the left arm back behind us with our opposite limbs staying exactly where they are. Again, it's important not to arch through the lower back, so you're thinking about pressing it down into your mat, and if you feel it is arching, just try not to go as low with your leg. Again, if it's too much to coordinate the arms and the legs, just focus on the legs this time round. Finishing off your final rep here, and we'll meet back to center. So our hands will come down by our sides, our right foot will stay on the floor, and our left leg will come into that tabletop position. From here, we'll bend and extend through that left leg. So straightening the left leg out, lowering it down as low as you feel comfortable, again without arching through the lower back, and then bending that left knee back into our tabletop position. The key here is trying to keep our lower back pressed to the floor, getting that gentle contraction through our abdominal muscles to keep the hip nice and stable. Finishing off your final rep here, and then we'll bring that left foot down to the floor, right knee into tabletop, and then we'll bend and extend through that right leg. So same thing, thinking about pressing down through that lower back, trying to keep the hip joint nice and stable here. And when we bring our leg back into tabletop, just be mindful that you're not bringing that knee too far forward over the belly button. It is stopping at the hip crease here. Finishing off your last rep on the right side, and then we're going to come into a side lying position. So lying down on our left side, so our right side will be up on top. Now you can either rest your head up on your hand like I am here, or if it's more comfortable, you can relax your head down onto your bicep. We're going to tuck those feet back in line with our glutes, and our hips are pushed all the way back to the back of the mat. We lift the feet up, but they're going to stay glued together. We're lifting the top knee open, and then we're closing it back down, trying not to let that whole hip roll open as we lift and lower the knees so they're staying stacked the whole time. If it helps you for feedback, you can place your hand on your hip here. We should be starting to get some warmth into that top glute here. Remember, feet are staying glued together and lifted, and we're checking in that the hip isn't rolling open, so the hips are staying stacked on top of each other as we lift the knee and lower the knee. It's an exhale as we lift, inhale as we lower. We have one more rep here, then we're going to bring that leg down. We relaxed our bottom leg down onto the floor now. Our right leg is going to come out nice and straight. We're just going to lift and lower that straight leg. So we don't have to tap it all the way down to the floor. It's just going to come just below hip height, and then we're going to lift it just above hip height. The leg stays nice and long here, and again we're trying to check in that the hips are both stacked on top of each other so they're not rolling open or inward. It's an exhale as we lift the leg up, inhale as we slowly control it down. Try not to let that leg drop down. We want control through the hip joint here. Final rep here. Now we're bringing the leg long in line with our hip. We're going to sweep it forward and then exhale, sweep it back in line with our glute. Inhale, sweep it forward, exhale, sweep it back. We're going to point the toes down towards the floor, so just turning those toes down, and it doesn't have to be a huge sweeping movement. Particularly when we sweep back, we're trying to avoid arching through that lower back, so just stop at the point where you feel your glute switch on and then sweep it forward from there. In 10 seconds, we're going to sweep our leg back in line with our glute, and then we're going to draw some little circles with our leg. Meet me there in 2, 1. Little circles with that leg, so circling forward for 3, 2, 1. Other way for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice, resting down there. Okay, we'll give those glutes a rest and come up into a half plank position. So pushing the hips forward, squeeze through your glutes. Our hands are directly underneath our shoulders here. Now you can tuck your toes under or have them flat, whatever's comfortable for you. Then we're just tapping our opposite hand to our opposite shoulder. So right hand taps the left shoulder, pausing for a second, then left hand taps the right shoulder. We're trying to keep those hips nice and still, so the more you squeeze your glutes, the easier that will be. Our eye gaze is looking just towards the top of our mat, so our neck stays nice and long here. We should have a nice long line from our head down to the back of our knee creases. And it's a gentle squeeze of our abdominals to keep us strong in this position. All right, let's do one more on each side. So finishing off your final reps here, then we're going to meet down into a forearm plank. So you can leave your knees on the floor like we just had them. Our glutes are switched on and our hips are down. Or if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can curl the toes under and lift the knees up off the mat. We're holding our plank position here, squeezing through the glutes. Eye gaze is slightly forward, looking to the top of our mat. Hold and breathe. You're here for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Dropping those knees down, finding your child's pose position, stretching those arms forward, hips pushing back over our heels. All right, now we'll do our side lying series on the other side. So with our left side up, we can either relax our head onto our hand, or if it feels more comfortable, lying down onto the bicep. Our hips are pushed right to the back of our mat. Our feet are lifted and glued together. And then we're just lifting that top knee up. Exhale. Inhale as we lower that knee down to meet the other knee. We're making sure the hips stay stacked here so they're not rolling open, and the hip joint is nice and stable and controlled. Finishing off that final rep here, and then we'll relax our bottom leg down. We'll find our straight leg position. So straightening out that top leg, we're going to lift it up just above hip height and then lowering it down just below hip height. So it doesn't have to go all the way down to the floor. Getting that warmth through our top hip here, making sure the hips stay stacked on top of each other as we lift and lower. It's an exhale to lift the leg, inhale to lower. Finishing off that last rep here, and then we're going to bring that leg in line with our hip. Keeping it nice and straight, we sweep the leg forward, turning those toes down towards the floor slightly, and then sweeping it back in line with our hip. Getting a nice deep squeeze of that top glute to bring it back so we're not overarching through our lower back. And the range is up to you. It doesn't have to be a massive range. We want it to be controlled through the hip. We're going to draw our circles with that straight leg. Meet me there in 2, 1. Straight leg comes back. We're drawing our little circles forward, keeping that leg nice and straight. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other way. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lowering that leg down. Have a little rest. We're going to come into a standing series now. So standing at the top of your mat. Our left foot will stay where it is. It's going to be the working leg for now. So we step that right leg back, aiming to get that knee down towards the floor. It doesn't matter if it touches the floor or not. That's just the direction that we're aiming for it to go. The left foot stays exactly where it is, bending through that knee, driving through our heel, big toe and little toe to stand us back up nice and tall. If you need to use a wall for support here, that's totally fine. Take it nice and slow. Use whatever pace works for you here. Next rep, we're going to step the knee back, hold it back, little pulses up and down with that right leg, nearly there for 2 and 1, stepping it back up to center. Before we do the other side, we'll come and stand at the back of our mat. We're going to come into a roll down, so tucking your chin to your chest, rolling all the way down. Then we're walking our hands out, finding a high plank position, so wrists underneath our shoulders. Hips ideally come nice and flat, but just work with whatever feels good for you here. And then we're walking the hands back towards our feet, standing up nice and tall. Repeat this at whatever pace works for you, and you can bend through those knees as much as you need to, depending on your hamstring flexibility and what that will allow. So that's fine if you need to bend the knees to bring you out and to bring you back in. Finishing off that final rep here, and then we'll come back up to the top of our mat to do those lunges on the other side. So right foot will stay forward. It will be the working leg now. We step the left knee back, aiming to get that left knee nice and low towards the floor, and then driving to the right heel, big toe and little toe to stand us back up. Next time you step back, we're going to hold it down, little pulses up and down here for 3, 2, 1. Nice, coming back up. Okay, we're going to come into some squats from here. So find a position with your feet just a little bit wider than hip distance. If it feels good for you, turn those toes out ever so slightly. And if you need, you can sit your bum back onto a chair or a box if that helps with your squats. But it's an inhale as we lower, we sit the hips back. Exhale as we stand back up. Keeping those shoulder blades rolled back and down the whole time, really thinking about sitting those hips back. You can stay with this, or if you want to add an extra layer, when you come up with your legs nice and long, you can add a little heel lift at the top to challenge your balance and give those calves a nice little pump. In 10 seconds, we're going to come down into a squat hold. So we'll just sit as low as we can into that squat. Meet me there in 3, 2, 1. Down into that squat hold. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Standing back up. Okay, we'll bring those feet underneath our hips here, legs stay nice and long. We're going to lift up both heels, lower the heels down, rotate our torso to look one way, come back to center, lift the heels, lower the heels, rotate the other direction. Finishing off that last rep here, and then we'll come down into a stretch. So we'll find our child's pose position, knees nice and wide, pushing the hips back over our heels. We'll extend those arms out long. Slowing down the breath, drawing in those nice deep inhales and exhales. We'll walk both hands over to the left-hand side, stretching out that right side body. And then walking both hands over to the right-hand side, stretching out that left side body. We'll lie down onto our backs now. We're going to find our figure 4 stretch. So left foot comes in front of that right knee. Then we thread the hands through, having a stretch out of our left glute here. And switching to the other side. So right foot comes in front of our left knee, threading the hands through, stretching out that right glute. Let's hug both knees into our chest now, rolling round and round or side to side. Give your spine a nice little massage here. And we'll finish class today in a seated position. So crossing those legs, we'll bring our right hand to our left knee. Left hand comes behind us, finding a nice twist through the spine here, looking over that left shoulder. It's an inhale to come back to center. Exhale as we twist to rotate to the other side. So left hand to our right knee, right hand behind us, looking over that right shoulder. Inhale to bring us back to center. We'll finish with some slow, deep breaths. Drawing in those inhales through the nose, exhales out the mouth. Thanking yourself for showing up today. You are all done.